to us about Donwell House. Tell us what they're doing, how they're moving the needle to help our kids, and the importance of being a part of this amazing initiative.
Out here. Okay. Oh, okay. You think I know how to do this? I'm a musician, right? There we go. Okay. Welcome. So glad to have you all here this evening. Thank you, Michelle. At some point, I want to recognize the gentleman who actually is providing the meal for you, because not only is he a wonderful chef, he's actually our new executive director. This is Dr. Kevin Davis back there. But it's a pleasure to be here. We have been at this with our program called Anna's Place NOLA. It was actually started out called Anna's Arts for Kids. And the idea was that we wanted to really show our kids that there's more to the world that they can aspire to do. And also we were looking to interrupt the cycle of poverty and violence that affects so many of our kids and happens in so many of our neighborhoods. And so after 15 years, we've been able to establish a template really of a program that can be replicated in other communities. And we're very excited about that possibility. We are members of the Episcopal Church, but we reach out to everyone and we work with everyone and try to make this world a better place. Our program emphasizes, we really have 4 pillars that we work on: academics, arts and culture, healthy living, and morality, because we don't push religion on kids, but we want to make sure that kids understand it's important to be a moral human being. Academics, obviously, we want them to be able to read and comprehend at grade level. That's the first thing. And once they are able to do that, no matter what situation they grow up in, they can become self-learners. So that's critical. Arts and culture teaches them not only about themselves, but about other cultures, so that they can read a book and learn about another kid or another culture in another part of the world, and hopefully inspire them to go and learn more about it. And then, of course, as I said, health is important. What you eat, what you put in your body, how you take care of yourself, your mental health. These are all important things for our kids to start learning now. So we're very excited to be able to start teaching these activities to our kids, starting at 5 years old and going all the way up to 17. But I'm more excited because we've been able to move into this building that was built in 1846, thanks to the work of Dr. Davis. This man is just an amazing fundraiser. I say that to let you know, not to tell you to come take him away from us. He's an amazing fundraiser, and he's been able to raise a lot of money telling people about the work that we're doing. So we're very excited about it because our kids deserve to be in a beautiful building to learn. They need to be in an environment that teaches them to respect education. And if there's one thing about this building, it teaches them that they can learn and they have something special for them. It took us 15 years, but that 15 years is worth it, because when the kids walk into this building, no matter what part of the community they come from, no matter what broken home, what school they may be in that's not doing them right, what community may be causing them to suffer, when they come into this space, they're in a space where there's love, where there's support, and where there's a desire to see them achieve. Your being here makes it even more special because you're now partners with us. And we now, at this stage of our development, we're looking to bring more people in to work with us because we can't do the work by ourselves. We focus on kids, you focus on other things, but working together, we can make this a better world. So I thank you for being here. I'll be remiss not to ask Dr. Davis to come up and say a few words. I know you weren't supposed to, but coming up, we're not gonna take all night. We're very lucky to have this gentleman with us. He grew up in this neighborhood. Unlike many folks from New Orleans, he left, went away for 20 years, and we were incredibly blessed to have him come back and now to be able to talk about what he experienced as a child and what he's going to do for the kids in this community. So, Dr. Kevin Davis.
Thank you. So I'll be brief. So 2 years ago, saw an ad on Indeed that said they were looking for a director in the Treme area. Well, that caught me right there because I'm from the Treme area. So I applied for the job, went pretty smooth, pretty quick, got an interview virtually. And then I was asked to come here and take a tour of a building. So I said, okay, I'll take that tour. So walking from 2 blocks down, we stopped right here at this vacant parking lot, and I just froze because this was a place where, while attending St. Augustine High School, I was told by a gentleman, get away from this house. Don't ever come in. You'll never have a house that looks like this. And so fast forward, now go in my pocket really quick, I get to bring in as many kids as I want that look like me. And so I hope wherever he is, he understands that he didn't stop what God intended to happen. So everything I do here, I do it because this is my neighborhood. This is where I'm from. This is where my mom instilled everything in me. She's no longer here with us, but I feel every day in spirit, I get to walk 2 blocks away and see the house that I grew up in. So thank y'all for coming. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you, Michelle. This started, about a year, maybe a year ago. We met, and then we've always been in contact, and then now here we are. So thank y'all again, and welcome to the Dowell House.
Thank you both. Thank you so much for allowing us to share in this amazing facility with you. And thank you for the food also. So he's the chef. So next, I want to invite up Jade Stokes. Jade is a great friend of mine. She is the director of Blacks in Technology, a new charter that's here in New Orleans. We know that Blacks in Technology is a large, I think it's an international organization? And so we now have a charter here in New Orleans, and Jade is the director. She is our community partner for this event. So I want to invite her up to talk a little bit about BIT and to learn about some of the things that they are doing to help build a strong and thriving technology ecosystem here in New Orleans.
Thank you, Michelle. Yes, my name is Jade Stokes. I am a native of the city. I did not leave like the brother did, but I have been here working and trying ever since I transitioned into tech, trying to grow the ecosystem, trying to get the networking going, trying to get training and hiring going. So I am the president of the New Orleans chapter of Blacks in Technology. We are the largest group of Black technologists in the world, over 30,000 members. We have chapters in almost every state and in 17 different countries. We have an annual conference called BigCon. It's in Atlanta this year. And membership is free. If you join, you will see there are over 40 different benefits for members that are either free or deeply discounted. In terms of membership, you can be looking or interested in tech and trying to figure out where I need to be and join. You could be a person who has been working in tech 5 years and join, or you could be an executive in tech and join. It is all free. It is a one big community. When you get in, you are encouraged to network. You have access to people with different experience throughout. And so when I found out about it, I said, we need a chapter in the city. I reached out to the director and he said, yeah, you can start one. And so that's what we're doing here. We have over 200 members. We're growing every day. And so go to BIT, go to blacksintechnology.org, hit join BIT, hit New Orleans as your chapter, and then you'll get me. And we can talk about where you are on your journey. Thank you, Michelle, for this. Michelle I remember the day we met, and we've been like this ever since. Anytime she needs something, she'll call me, and when I call her, she answers the phone. And so we have together been building this, 5 years, 4 years? And so thank you to OHub for this connection. I'm really happy that we have this in the city because we need it. And so listen, go to blacksintechnology.org, hit join BIT, you'll see me, and then we can talk about where you are on your journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now we're going to have our ecosystem champion, Leroy, come up and interview or have a very high energy discussion with Joel Holton. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a seat. Now, before we get started, though, I really want to thank Mr. Darrell, doctor who came through, and also I want to thank Jade as well. I think one of the things that's really important if you want to understand about our community is it takes all aspects, it takes all pieces, and everybody kind of adds to it. So it's one of those things where even though we're working with new energy and technology, based on that work that he's doing with those kids, I know that it's connected, right? I know that there's going to be an opportunity, that they're going to be looking for opportunities and may come through STEMNOLA. It may come through a local STEM program. It may be something where there's wraparound, but we always think about our community as connected. So therefore, our community partners become just as significant and as important as our ecosystem partners that we currently have. So I want to thank the Dowell House also. I also want to thank BIT for being here and supporting us today too. So today, we're going to have a conversation with a founder who, this is really a cool story for me because I think he was referred to us through Idea Village, right? And I had a chance to reach out to him. And this is when we first started. It was in our early days. So in reaching out to him, it was more of, hey man, what you got going on? Can we hook up? Can we meet? Can you have a chance to kind of talk to you? And I had a chance to go to a shop. So that was a really good experience. And so, and I see a couple of founders in here now that I've had the opportunity to actually spend time with them one-on-one, or at least have an opportunity to talk to them. These are local founders, man. We celebrate you guys. We really do appreciate you guys. To all my whole OHUB founders, be it national, international, man, we want to thank you guys. We appreciate you guys. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Joel Holton, the CEO of Grow Enterprise. Joe, how you doing?
I'm good, brother.
You know, it's very exciting. Like I said before, it's very exciting because we kind of went from the referral all the way up to now, right? So we had a couple of sit downs, but this may be hopefully the most fun sit down right here. Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself and growing up here, and tell us a little bit about Joel.
Well, first, I'd like to say, man, this is an honor and a pleasure to be sitting with my good brother, Leroy Brown. He kind of gave y'all the high-level version of how we got introduced to each other, but he was a very persistent individual in saying, hey, man, I need you to get out here. And I'm glad he was, because it paid off to come to this point. So like I said, my name is Joel Holton, founder of Grow Enterprises. Grew up here in New Orleans and New Orleans East, and also on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in Gulfport. So my whole life has been spent in this Gulf Coast region. It's just a tremendous opportunity for me to be able to bring innovation back to the city, and more so back specifically to the communities that I wish to serve, that I grew up in and my family grew up in, and different things like that, because it's vital at this point in history that we start to shift our thought process, especially when it comes to the environment and climate change, and really what that means for underserved and Black communities. It's the time transition right now for us to start thinking and changing our mindset towards how we do things, especially in our own communities.
Okay, so Joe, one of the things I kind of picked up on as a theme that's in the room, people who were here may have to leave for a little while and then came back.
Yeah.
So you told me your journey is a little bit like that too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, we lived in the city up until maybe I was like 11, 12 years old. Then we moved. We have family on the Mississippi Gulf Coast in Gulfport. So I spent middle school and high school in those, on the coast. Actually went to college in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, at USM and William Carey University. But I always wanted to come back to the city and make a difference. So, after all that, around 2002, came back to the city. I was actually on the North Shore, just really always had a love for this city in a way that it's just undescribable. It always felt like home. It always, was home to me, and I always wanted to make a difference. But I think what really took it to another level is once Katrina hit. So story, January 2005, I started my original company. And we all know about August of 2005, what happened. And I was kind of thrust into this whole world of major construction, commercial and residential. And it was a whirlwind, but now that led me to where we are now with Grow Enterprises and seeking to build the built environment in a healthier way. So it's been a journey, but I've been native to this entire region my entire life. So it all feels like home to me. And this is where I want to make the biggest impact.
And I think I brought that up because I'm someone who left, came back, left, came back, left, came back, right? And to be here in this moment, to have the opportunity to impact the city, it's a big deal. I think that a lot of people out there we get a chance to talk to, they're back and don't even know why, but they just know they're back. And so we are all here, I think, at this moment to do something special. And you're doing something special right now with your tiny homes, the process, something she was telling us more. Can you give me more insight on that?
Yeah. I'll give everybody in the room the update. So in partnership with Phoenix Project NOLA and the First 72, we are going to build a micro home or tiny home for somebody who was formerly incarcerated, but also the first ever hemp structure in the city's history will house somebody who was formerly incarcerated. So we are very intentional with our impact and what we're doing. And we actually just got our building permit last Friday, which was a major milestone for us because it's been quite the journey, been some ups and downs and everything, but it was well worth the wait. And like I tell everybody, God's time is way better than our own. So it's right on time because everything is happening in sequence. So it's a very, very interesting time for me because I get to see how a vision can come to reality and how those things can impact people in my community first. And then the plan is hopefully it will benefit the greater community, therefore thereafter. So this is an amazing time for me. It's almost surreal sitting here with Leroy now because when we first were sitting down, it was last August, it was 150 degrees. But he was one of the only, I'll tell you, I invited a lot of people out to come and check out what we was doing. A lot of people didn't show up. Leroy came out a few times, and I know he was busy. I know he had other things to do, but he wanted to see what we was doing. And that's kind of, my background. Like, the proof is in the pudding. I want to, if I say I can do something, I want to stand on that, but also deliver a product that is top of the line because the people most in need of housing in this area deserve the best. And I think that's where we're missing the mark, not only in New Orleans, in the Gulf South, throughout the country, that those who are most in need truly deserve the most healthiest, safest, sustainable housing solutions that they can get.
Okay, now, I think you also explained something I think a lot of founders go through. So you got two companies, right? That construction side, right? And Grow, that's also doing the material and development. So tell us a little bit about that part because there may be some investors listening, right? You have plans to also expand on your sustainable materials, though.
Yes.
Right. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So real quick, my background, original company is JB Holton and Associates, licensed home improvement mold remediation contractor. We did a lot of environmental services with asbestos lead-based paint. And that's what kind of brought me to Grow Enterprises, seeing like disaster response, flood restoration, and seeing that a lot of times most of the buildings or homes in our region were affected by moisture and what moisture does to the built environment. So that kind of led me down the path to experiment and do research and figure out like, what could we be building with that's more climate resilient, but also more resilient to our everyday climate and, the fact that we are having these storm events and weather events more frequently. So, that's what led me to building products with industrial hemp. This is an innovation that I didn't create, but I was exposed to back in 2019. Just start doing some real deep digging and research, actually went and visited projects around the country where people were using this material. And I just brought it back to the city and said, hey, I think this is something that could be highly beneficial to what we need to do. And with that, we're doing our second proof of concept. Our original proof of concept was a retrofit of a historic home in the 7th Ward. And I can tell you within the first 12 months that property owner has experienced a more than 47% reduction in her energy cost. And we know that our communities are most energy burdened, cost burdened when it comes to these type of things. So when you look at it like this, how they say a penny saved is a penny earned. So it's actually increasing the revenue for that family and for that and those people in that home to not have to make the tough decisions of like, hey, we paying all the light bill this month, we paying some of the water bill. These are real discussions. I grew up in a house like that. Like, so I know what that's about, you know, so I understand that a $50 savings here, $100 savings here can be the difference in a lot of things happening for that family. So we're looking to show proof of concept through these initial projects and then also scale it up to where we can actually produce the materials, the raw materials, and produce the actual material here locally within manufacturing, which also gives us opportunity to hire people, to train people, to give people job and climate smart opportunities, and really start giving opportunities that look towards the future of where we need to go in shrinking our carbon footprint, not only in the built environment, but also providing healthier outcomes in housing. We know a lot of times affordable housing is poorly built, poorly designed, and cheaply done. And all that leads to is poor indoor air quality, sick building syndrome, you name it, there it is. And our community suffers from that the most, you know, from these health outcomes. So it's just a transformative way, but it's actually a very ancient way of building things that has already been proven out throughout the world's history.
Okay, so as we look at the use of hemp, how did you get involved with it? What made you want to pursue hemp as something that was going to solve the insulation, moisture, all those challenges?
Yeah. So the story is, I wish I had a wonderful story that made a lot of sense, but it was basically me looking to develop or build housing with healthier materials. And it was literally a late night YouTube search. I saw a video. There was a nonprofit in Kentucky, I believe, that were building affordable housing using industrial hemp as the building material insulation. And when I started reading about the properties and what it does, and it just sounded too good to be true. So it kind of made me do a deeper dive, and I start looking to other countries. So this product has been used for the last 30 or 40 years throughout Europe, Belgium, France, Germany, these different areas, Canada as well. And so the data was there to show the performance levels. And once I saw that there was data in that use of the materials, it just really opened my eyes and said, hey, we deal with humidity and moisture on a whole different level here in the Gulf South, specifically in New Orleans. So like, if we could use a material like that here, it would definitely be a game changer, because what it does is it regulates humidity in the built environment, which leads directly to like comfort and satisfaction in the ambient air in a building. So, once we got into the realm of understanding where our suppliers were domestically, because in 2019, when I was introduced, none of the material was produced domestically. It was all coming from France and other countries. So I said, I'm gonna wait till I have a domestic supply chain so we can really make this thing more feasible. And it came online probably about 2021, where there was full on domestic production of the raw materials. So we just dove deep into it. I started making those relationships. COVID was a blessing for me because everybody was sitting still, couldn't travel as much, but I could get on a Zoom or some kind of virtual meeting and talk to people all around the country or all around the world and figure this thing out. And those relationships are still hold true to this day. We've had maybe 5 or 6 individuals from around the country come to New Orleans and help us do these projects. We'll have somebody down here next month from North Dakota. Good friend of mine, Matt Marino with Homeland Hemp Crate. I definitely want to give him a shout out because he's been instrumental in helping us get this thing off the ground here locally in New Orleans, as well as Cameron McIntosh with Amerishawn. There's a lot of names I can name, but I mean, these individuals have really given me the game and given me the blueprint to bring this innovation to the city.
Okay, something you said I definitely like is that being able to build an ecosystem outside of our ecosystem, right? The partnerships, the different folks you're working with, they're now coming down into our environment to kind of figure out like, hey, how can we make this work for you? I think that's really cool, because now it's not only just you in this, but you having people who are invested emotionally into this piece, right? So one thing I always say definitely is that community is our superpower. And I don't think it's community just regulated to just our small community. I think it's great when we can create relationships way outside and as far as it reaches, in order for us to get as many resources as we possibly can, or learn something that we don't currently know. So we talked about the fact that you, first of all, you saw it, you started researching it, you felt good about it as the properties that it had. So now you got the product, you got the distributors, everybody's coming back, right? Yeah. And so what made you go with the tiny home? So I'm trying to, because I know you got the construction part, but you also had the hemp stuff. Yeah. But what made you put the two together? Okay.
That's a great question. For the most part, you hear me refer to the homes more as micro homes. Tiny homes for me is just not an appealing term, just because, I'm from the South. I don't want nothing tiny. You know what I'm saying? I want a tiny piece of cake, piece of chicken, none of that. I want something, of substance. So micro was also a term that was inspired by another good brother, Booker T. Washington, with Techie Homes out of Atlanta. And he did one of the first micro home developments in the city of Atlanta's history. Those brothers inspired me to do this here, or to attempt to do it. So the micro home approach is more of an approach of affordability. We know with housing prices and everything just skyrocketing right now, that most families in that low and moderate income range really can't afford a house right now, especially when you think about insurance costs, taxes, cost of operation, these different factors that play a role. So we wanted to build a truly sustainable and affordable model to where the footprint was a little smaller, but also the operation costs are a little bit smaller. The carrying costs, hopefully the insurance costs, we're gonna keep our fingers crossed with that, moving forward. But it's a way to get in. And also in a city like New Orleans, a lot of us grew up in small, my grandma's house was small. Like we grew up on a smaller footprint because most of our lots are smaller. So it's not a foreign concept. I think a lot of times, when people talk about tiny homes, it kind of gets a bad rap. That's why, the terminology micro homes for me is more important than just say it's just a smaller home. But it's not, something that I wouldn't live in. I never touch or build anything I wouldn't do it for myself or live in for myself. So I know this is something that we designed with our architect, Alex Sexsmith, out of the Tucson area. It had to be livable. Like I had to feel like I could live there comfortably, and that somebody with a small family or a single person could live there comfortably. And it had to make sense into the landscape of the design of the neighborhood too. We didn't want to put something in the neighborhood that looked foreign or just out of the box. So it's a very simple cottage style, one story that truly blends into the neighborhood. And we really look forward to doing a lot more of these projects coming up in the near future.
So your project requires you to have a purpose and mission around creating affordable housing, right? And I think there are always going to be founders who have a mission around doing good. Me and you kind of talked a little bit about how you can scale though. Now, what opportunities do you see being able to use this to scale your good works?
Yeah. So one of the main things that we want to do as far as scaling is to become a fully integrated company to where we are in partnership or controlling the actual cultivation and the processing of the raw materials here locally. And with that, there's just a tremendous upside. 50% of our total cost of the material is logistically tied. So it costs us 50% more to get that material out of Colorado to get it here to use. So if we had a local source where we could actually grow and process the raw materials here locally, we just save 50% off the cost of goods sold, which increases profitability, which makes it more scalable. But also on the manufacturing side of these materials and goods, we actually have a job creation and workforce development element that I'm currently developing a curriculum for. So we can start educating individuals or whether in the construction trades or individuals looking for new job opportunities, to actually learn the why behind what we do. You know, I knew here, you know, being from, you know, New Orleans in the South, like the proof is in the pudding. You got to show me what this is before I can really adapt anything new or innovative. And it's got to make sense. So it was important for us to put these projects together so we can show the use of the product, the performance data, the indoor air quality data, and gather that data so we could reach out to other investors or individuals who could definitely help us scale this model to where we could say over the next 5 years, our cost of construction will be equivalent or less than traditional building. You know, there's nobody in the building space right now that can say that their cost of building is looking to go down over the next 5 years. It's definitely looking to go up. So if we could scale this properly and have local production and processing, I know I could build homes at cost or less than a traditionally stick-built home.
So as we look at scaling, what regions, markets or regions are you currently targeting with your hemp installation project?
So of course, definitely the New Orleans area, but the entire Gulf South. 7 of the 10 riskiest cities to own a home in are all located in the Gulf South. So whether that's Houston, New Orleans, Atlanta, we're all prone to these storm events that are happening way more frequently and way more severe. So these are the areas and the communities that I look to put this innovation in first, but also to stimulate economic development in those industries, in those cities as well, because there's a lot of Black communities throughout the region that are really looking for affordable housing solutions, but also job creation and economic development in those areas as well. And I just feel like we need to start rebuilding our community from the inside out. We need to stop waiting for the people to come in and save us. It's just not happening. The history of this country has proven that to be the fact. So we must build from within, bring that pride back to the community, and work from a point of excellence. And that's just one of the reasons why it's an honor to be part of OHUB and be selected as a founder to be funded, because you're seeing Black excellence every day. You're seeing individuals perform at a high level that look like you, which makes it way more comfortable to have hard conversations, but also good conversations. So this has just been a blessing in so many ways. I'm glad Leroy was very persistent in getting me to come to the first meetup, and it's grown from there, and we're going to continue to grow this thing.
So Joe, what is something, because we talked about the incubator, we had pretty much, 8 months, 6 to 8 months. What is something that still today, that going through that process with Dave Parker, what is something still today that you remember him saying during one of the courses or one of the classes?
Yeah, Dave Parker is an amazing man. And the thing that resonated the most with me, we had a couple side conversations, and his biggest thing was like, yeah, that's a great idea, but is it a good business? And it kind of got me thinking, like, that's true, because at the end of the day, investors really don't care about a great idea. They care more about profitability. Like, how does this make sense for everybody to win? And, like growing up playing sports, you want to win as a team. So if it doesn't make sense and just a good idea, it's not enough. It has to have the data, the numbers, the financials, and the projections to support the investment. And that's what we're looking to do in scaling our operations. There's a lot of good pieces to it. There's a lot of mission-driven pieces, but that's not the core of what we want to do. We want to create economic development, and especially in underserved and underinvested neighborhoods throughout New Orleans and other parts of the Gulf South. It's just the bottom line. But yeah, Dave, I go back and look at the recordings to this day, product market fit, all these different terminologies that I wasn't really aware of, but he made it make a lot of sense.
And another reason you bring that out, man, is because having the opportunity to understand how you're going to scale your business, right? Really understanding, like, where can my business go from here? I think the first time I ever sat down with him, I felt like the sustainable building materials was the way to go, right? Because I'm thinking everybody's going to go green eventually. Him being able to be a supplier of green material, building materials, and not only that, he's also a contractor as well. So it's one of those things where even inside of the incubator, you have the opportunity and you're going to be challenged to actually rethink about how you make money. We want you to do good. We also want you to do well, right? Be able to rethink how you're going to commercialize your products. Let's do good and let's do well at the same time. So that you would tell them about either getting on that journey or regardless of where they are in their journey, what are some of the things that you think that would be important for them to know right now?
I'm gonna say, at the end of the day, one of the most important things to flesh out in your journey and in your business is like the numbers got to make sense. This thing has to be an idea that can be scaled and grown. And like, I've been in business for a long time, so you got to have that patience and that persistence and that perseverance. Like, it's not gonna come together quickly. It's gonna take time. And that's easy to say, but like, as somebody that's sitting here that's been in business more than 15 years, it's been a journey. It's been a lot of ups and downs. But sometimes I tell individuals when you experience the downs, it's really not a down. It's more of a time for you to reflect and kind of reset and refocus on what you're doing, and maybe trim some of the fat off of it. Maybe make it simpler. Make it something that is easier to understand. Because when you're trying to convey these ideas, especially with me and what I'm doing, nobody's seen this product in use in this area. This is the first of its kind. So it's hard to really explain a lot of the benefits. I can tell you what they are, but until you walk into that built space with this material, that's when you'll feel the difference, and that's what you'll know. So what I tell any founder or anybody on this entrepreneurial journey, just stay persistent. Find good people, find your ecosystem, find your tribe of people that can support you, because only other entrepreneurs and founders really understand what you're going through. So move as a unit, move as a family, and kind of lean on each other, to throw ideas or just, to vent sometimes. There's a lot of times I talk to my good brother, Mr. Race Jordan back there, who will be the electrician on our project. And we just talk, man. We just talk, because we all go through it out here in the field and trying to get things done. And nobody really understands but each other. Somebody with a 9-to-5 is not going to quite understand the same, trials and tribulations that we go through every day.
And one thing I saw from this cohort that I thought was really cool too, man, was they did support each other. I don't know if Maisha's still in here. She had to go. Brent, still here?
Yeah, that's right.
So we got Brent here. These are all guys from our first cohort. So they came out to see and support Joel in this particular event, but in every event that we go to, if it's a dinner or something, and that's one of the things I think that we're trying to create, is that I don't want you to feel like there's no space where you can't come and ask a question, come ask about a resource, or worst case scenario, find a tribe, right? Find a group of people who feel and think the way you think, so that when you're telling them about your crazy idea, it don't seem so crazy, right? So that's the support that we're creating. So right now, I want to open the floor up and let you guys ask Joe some questions, and I'm gonna sit this side.
All right. What y'all got? Y'all being shy? Miss Joyce?
Question, what about the zoning issues with micro homes, and also approximately what might be the cost and how many would you put on a certain piece of land?
Yeah, so when it comes to development of, like, say, a tiny home community here in New Orleans, there are some restrictions. The good thing about it, we didn't face any pushback from permitting on building a single structure. So it may be a situation where we will have to find multiple adjoining lots and build single structures on each lot. And then that way we could have, we can the building and then the permitting will go and the zoning will go in a way that's more favorable than try to say, hey, here's 2 acres, let's build 30 of these in that density of that space, because I think that's one of the biggest pushbacks of a lot of neighborhoods in a lot of parts of the city. They don't really understand the density issue of like building more of these houses in such a smaller space. But I have to say, everybody, this is happening in other metropolitan areas throughout the Gulf South. So like we can sit here and be like, oh, I don't like this because I don't understand it. Or we can start to shift and adapt and saying, hey, this is a tool in the solution of affordability for more Black and brown and indigenous people to be able to own stuff, own housing, become homeowners. So that's more of my push. Like, you know, right now with the way the housing prices are going, specifically in New Orleans, a lot of people will never be able to afford to own a home. So maybe this is a tool to where we can have more Black and brown people actually owning homes as a starter home. That's the other part of the home buying process I want people to start to understand. You know, it's a start to something. It's not necessarily the end all be all. It's not the house that you retire in, but it's a way to get into the game of ownership and controlling your own destiny to a certain extent and really become a viable part of the community. Yes. Anybody? What's up, sir? I appreciate that, good brother. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Cost. Yes, sir. Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Great questions, because that's what it comes down to, the cost. What does this cost to do? You know, how much does this cost? So right now, you know, square foot range, we're looking at about $145 to about $160 a square foot, depending on the design of the home. So, you know, that's comparable to new construction, you know, traditional built. You know, there's a little bit of a premium of it on it because of the, you know, the materials that we use, but a lot of that is due to the fact that the materials are not available to me locally. So if there was materials available locally, we could actually push that number down considerably. Yeah, everything we want to do is a great question about formerly incarcerated people, but also homeless population that we see that's growing every day in the city. So we want to use these initial units as not only proof of concept and pilots, but to also be more supportive in the housing supply of transitional and supportive housing units for individuals that need housing the most. So my goal is to put people that need housing the most into the most sustainable, healthiest housing units available. And that's what we're doing with this hemp bill. We want to make sure that those that are in greatest need are available to these different units. So whether it's somebody that's dealing with homeless issues, coming home from incarceration, just in transition, you know, we want them to be living in these units because we know it'll be, first of all, a cost reduction strategy. So if you got the city or local state government footing the bill for this, and I can tell them, well, the energy cost for this unit would be 50% cheaper than putting them in a traditional unit, then that's cost savings to the municipality as well. So it's like a really holistic approach to how we want to use these different type of innovations when it comes to the built environment. Yeah, depending on the square footage. So just rough estimate, if we built 500 square feet, you're looking at about, I think it's about 110 to 115, something in that range. Just quick math. Yeah. Well, yeah, and we want to talk to you more, Scotty. I like you. I like you a lot because I like your selection in beer as well. So we got a lot in common. Yes, ma'am. Mhm. Yeah. Great question. Yeah, we want to do all those things. So from the insulation material, there's also flooring that we're going to use in this initial build. We do want to use solar panels. I'm reaching out to a couple individuals in that industry to see if we can get some donations. The only thing that's kind of restricting us on this initial proof of concept build was the budget. It was a budgetary restraint. Working with Phoenix Project NOLA, when Erin came to me, she was like, "Well, look, this is all I got to do this," and I said, "Well, we're gonna make it work." So it was collective economics. It was group economics. We both had visions of what we wanted to see and who we wanted to help. So we put our resources together, and we made it happen. And we also, I want to say too, we have a 90% DBE or BIPOC firm requirement on our projects. And I know that is a touchy subject right now, but I'm telling you now, as I sit here, 90% of the tradesmen or firms that work on our project will be people of color, whether that's Black, or indigenous individuals here in the city of New Orleans. And that's just what it's going to be as we move forward. So yeah, we want to get into smart devices. We want to get into smart thermostats, smart appliances, the whole nine. But there was a budgetary restraint in this initial project. But the next project that we have on the horizon, we're trying to go all the way with it and really bring a model of innovation to the city and say, hey, this is the way we need to build for a lot of reasons, cost reasons, but also we can lower insurance premiums too if we build to a certain standard. We can lower energy costs if we build to this certain standard as well. So it's just highly important that we move in that direction. That's a great question. Yes, sir. Yeah, so traditionally, one of the key factors in the differences, and I'll just go to this real quick. So when you're using a fiberglass insulation or like a blow-in, anything like that, as soon as it gets wet, it's done. Any moisture is done. It loses all of its R value. It's over with. You got to throw it away, and then it goes into a landfill, and it's highly toxic. With this product, these products can absorb up to 20% of their weight in water. It can expel that water and not lose any of its R value. So which in the long term means that if we do have storm events or flood events, a lot of this material will not have to be ripped out and replaced. It can be dried in place. And by the components within the insulation is naturally antimicrobial and antifungal. So we don't have to worry about as much with mold and mildew once it does get wet. So these are like game-changing events in our environment for sure, as far as in the built environment. Oh, we got a lot. Ladies first. Yes, ma'am. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another great question. So currently we are sourcing all of our hemp raw materials out of Colorado through a company called Hemp and Block. Mr. Derek Wolf, good friend of mine. We've become very good business partners and colleagues over the last, say, 7 to 8 months. So logistically, it's coming out of Colorado. Ideally, we would really love to have it here locally. So to say how many acres we would need is kind of tough right now. But if we could get 50 to 100 acres to where we could build, we could start to grow, cultivate, and process, you're pretty much looking at the production of like 1.5 acre per tiny home. So for every 500 square feet, you would need to produce roughly 2,500 pounds of the raw processed material. So basically, you're looking at about an acre and a half per home. So, if you do the easy math, if you had 100 acres, we get roughly 40 houses out of that, give or take maybe 50. So the more would be better, But I kind of, go with the scale of how they do things over in Europe, where it's quality over quantity, because you want to have a very high quality material. So, it can last and be certified. In countries like France, they have certification process for these construction materials. So it's a very unique process, but it's nothing that cannot easily be replicated here in Louisiana at all. Good brother. Yeah, good question. So this is initial build we're doing like a modular prefab style. So our construction time is a lot quicker. So we're talking about maybe traditionally stick built, you're talking about at least 6 months. We're looking like 2. Because little to be known, all the exterior walls of this house have already been built and they're sitting on site in a container right now. So it's pretty much permitting, foundation, getting those walls up that are already pre-built, building out the roof. It's a very streamlined process, but it's a very efficient process because there's no wasted material. So if you go by a traditionally stick-built property that's being built, there's a huge ass dumpster in the front full of waste. When we build off-site, we can reduce a lot of the waste. We make it a more efficient process, and the materials are not exposed to the elements of outside. So I don't think people understand when you're building a traditional stick-built home, that house sits out in the natural environment for 6, 8, 9 months. So even if it didn't rain one time during that time, the humidity alone from that would compromise all that wood structure. And possibly, I know if you walk in, you're going to see mold, you're going to see mildew on that wood. How many times have you seen somebody after a rainstorm go into a stick built that's been framed and dried in and dried out? You don't see that. So where's all that water go? It stays in that house. It stays in that material. As somebody that does restoration and dry out work, you can't look at it and tell if it's dry. If you're not putting moisture meters and gauges in that house, you don't know how wet those structures are. So by building off site and having that controlled environment, we eliminate a lot of that. James. Yes, sir.
So just, I guess, have clarity of your journey and even the way things are progressing, going forward. Your original company, the construction company, I guess continues to operate and function in the way that it has been.
Yes, sir.
And then the Grow Enterprises is more so an entity that's focusing on building materials.
Yes, sir. Exactly. So Grow Enterprises is more focused on the climate smart building materials and scaling that manufacturing side, but also like sustainable housing development as well. So we're having socially impactful projects that we're working through to illustrate this proof of concept. So once we get more houses up, more projects up, and we have the data tied to those houses, then that's going to trigger investors to say, hey, we need to build more of this material, because the government itself is actually looking for these carbon negative materials. They have a huge push right now to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in the built environment, especially in low and moderate income families, but also housing, but also raise the performance of these houses as well, because they understand that energy costs and burdens drastically affect those on the lower economic end a lot more than other community members. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yeah. So we outsource a lot of the MEP stuff, as the build and construction. So we're going to outsource, electrical, plumbing, HVAC type of work as well. But we have a strong movement right now to develop a workforce development and training program, to where we can train anybody to come in and learn how to work with the material, and actually how to build the panels or actually produce the insulated hemp blocks. So that's something that I'm working with. I've got some stuff in the works with a couple of different training organizations here in the city to see if we could be a value add to what they're already doing in the space of workforce development and training. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
And this partly is just me talking out loud as well too. So I guess it seems like the current strategy is to get the model of build the infrastructure behind locally and then expanding it out. Like you said, like you spending that land to go forward and almost having to be like a snowball effect.
Yes, sir. Yeah, no, it's definitely that's definitely the idea to move more of these projects and also the manufacturing into be here locally here in South Louisiana and New Orleans, but the use of the materials is spread out through the Gulf South first, especially in underserved and Black communities. So we can, we all know after storms, our communities have the highest rate of displacement because people can't get back in. They have the biggest struggles with their insurance companies. All these different factors lead to displacement. So if we had materials or a home that was built with materials where I could get somebody back in their home in 6 weeks instead of 6 months, it lowers the possibility of those individuals being displaced permanently out of their residence. So yeah, we definitely are moving in that direction. Sure. Y'all good?
Guys, let's give Joel a big round of applause. And this is for all the founders, man. Having had the opportunity to sit with him 3 or 4 times like this, like before we got to this stage right here, right? Like we were just sitting on concrete blocks, kind of hanging out and talking about the whole project, and to see how much he has grown and to know how, because I was there for the high growth business certifications, and to know how those classes rolled out and how he adapted his mind to that process of how do I scale. And like, even in any program, man, there's nothing that you can be more happy or more excited about when someone who has a great idea figures out how they can make that idea work for themselves and work for everybody else. And that's a great thing. So I think all of you guys who are out, all of you guys who are watching, there are a lot of great ideas out there, man. Please come forth. Please tell them about them, especially in the technology space. I'm talking to my folks from BIT. I know that you guys are creating some amazing things, so please don't be shy. Let us know. We'd love to hear about it. And to everyone else, thank you, man. We appreciate you guys coming out.
Now you didn't hate you, then they lie you again. Hate you, then they lie you, then they hate you again.